Hi, my name is Lelia Glass, and I am back from my first video. Now I'm in video number 2 out of 3. And in this video, I'm continuing to show you a pipeline for processing sociolinguistic data. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to then take a draft text grid generated by BedWord, Deepgram, and DARLA, and how to then correct it, what we call post-editing it, into what we call a gold text grid. So we started with a draft text grid made by the computer that might have some errors in it. And what we're going to do here is we're going to hand correct it so that we then have a gold text grid that we know is good because the human corrected it by hand. And we're going to do that using Praat. So, and then in the next video, we'll do some other stuff, but just focusing on this video for now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to open a WAV file and a text grid, both at the same time using Praat. Then we're going to edit it carefully by hand. I'll talk about exactly how to do that. And then we're finally going to save and store it. So I will just show you all of that now. So let me see if I can escape out of my presentation. So we're still in video 2. Great, so escape. Now I'm gonna head over to my desktop where I have the interview as a WAV file and then this text grid that I got from BedWord in the video that I showed you before. So this text grid was made by the computer using Deepgram speech to text, and then BedWord's tool made by my student Marcus Ma that then maps the speech to text into a text grid. So the first thing you need is you need Praat downloaded. So actually before I even show you that, I should show you we need to have Praat downloaded on our computer. So you should download Praat if you don't have it. You can download Praat online by just going to Praat. You just Google Praat, and then if you head over to this website, then you can download it. You just choose what kind of computer you have and download it. And then once you have it downloaded, you should be able to open a WAV file and a text grid together. So I'm going to click on the text grid, then I'm going to hold down the shift key and click on the interview at the same time. So I've selected both of them, and I'm going to click open with Praat. Okay, great. So now we have this all in Praat. I'm going to close that window because we didn't need that. And now we're just going to click on view and edit. So here we are. Now here we have a text grid created by DARLA and by BedWord. So here we're going to take a listen. So this is a sociolinguistic interview. So it involves speech from both the interviewer and the interviewee. So I'm just going to click play here.
Please say your 4-digit identifier out loud.
3495.
Okay, great. So as you can hear, we have two different people. We have the interviewer, who's a little quieter, and we have the interviewee, who is louder. And because we are only interested in studying the interviewee, we are going to remove all of the speech of the interviewer because we don't want to study him. He's not a participant in our study. He's a researcher. We are not studying him. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move this Praat boundary by just clicking and dragging it. And then now I'm actually also going to delete everything that the interviewer said and leave only the interviewee. So now let's take a look.
3495.
Great. So that now we have removed the speech of the interviewer. Great. Now let's go on to the next chunk.
What is your year and what is your major?
I am a freshman and I am a mechanical engineer.
Okay, so I'm actually going to move this a tiny bit to the right because it seems like a bit cut off. And then I'm going to move this boundary a little bit over, and I'm going to delete what the interviewer said so that we only have the interviewee. And now we'll take another listen.
I am a freshman and I am a mechanical engineer.
Great, cool. So now we're going to head over to the next chunk.
How did you choose your major?
Well.
Okay, so now again we're going to remove the interviewer, move the boundary.
Well.
And just leave it as the word well, because that's the only word that the interviewee said. Then let's head over here. And then let's take a listen here.
The super blunt version is I chose my major because it is the broadest of the engineerings.
So, okay, I'm going to add in the word is here. Uh-oh, what's going on?
The super blunt version is I chose my major because it is the broadest of the engineerings, and so it gives me time to narrow it down. Before going into high school, I was dead set on becoming a math teacher.
Cool. So you saw that I just changed, the word is was missing, so I added it in. Let's listen one more time.
The super blunt version is I chose my major because it is the broadest of the engineerings, and so it gives me time to narrow it down. Before going into high school, I was dead set on becoming a math teacher.
Okay, great. So now we've corrected that. That looks good. And so actually you'll see that And then I'm also just going to save this. I always press save every time I do anything. Yeah, so you'll see that actually the computer has already generated a pretty good text grid, right? This is so much easier than it used to be, so much easier than back in the day when we would do all of this by hand. We would type every single word by hand. This is a lot easier, but we don't want it to be so easy that then you don't do any work and then we end up with garbage data. We still need to do some work to make sure that the data is high quality. So here, let's go listen to another chunk.
I had a 1.5-year internship in the classroom, but then I changed my mind and decided that was probably not a good idea.
Okay, so we do see one error here. It says change her mind, and she actually said change my mind. And then I think she said decided. So let's take one more listen.
I had a 1.5-year internship in the classroom, but then I changed my mind and decided that was probably not a good idea.
Right, so she actually said decided. So I'm going to correct that to decided. Now let's head over here.
That's really cool.
Okay, that is just the interviewer, so we're going to delete that and leave it as silence.
Okay, so tell me about your high school.
Tell me about your high school. So I'm going to delete that because that's the interviewer. Okay, then let's go over here.
Good, clicky.
So yeah, she said good and clicky. That's right. Okay.
But that's okay. I was able to find kind of my own people.
So she said I was able to find kind of my own people. So we're going to correct that.
But that's okay. I was able to find kind of my own people.
Okay, looks good. Then let's head over here. Well, let's take a listen to this. Yeah, we don't need to transcribe the word We are not measuring the word so don't bother with that.
I know. Can you give me more prompts than that?
I think she's saying I don't know. Can you give me more prompts than that? So we do have to correct a few things.
I know. Can you give me more prompts than that?
Okay. Then this is the interviewer.
You described the clicks. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on that?
Okay, so we're going to delete that because that's the interviewer.
The graphics are just personality-wise.
Okay, and then actually this is a little bit weird. So I'm actually going to remove the boundary a little bit to the left because there didn't really need to be two there.
Demographics are just personality-wise.
And now we're going to add in the word because when the word is in a continuous stream, we do want to add it so that when the computer then goes in to try to line up every single word with the sound corresponding to that word, it doesn't get confused, so that it knows that if a filler word like is there, it knows to align the sound with the word or right? Instead of trying to align the word demographics with where she's saying right? That would mess up everything. So we're adding in this filler word which actually a lot of speech to text automatically leaves out, but for sociophonetics we want it to be in there, so we just added it. Now let's keep going. Let's take another listen.
Okay. As a people, there was.
So I'm going to add in the word
Okay. As a people, there was.
As a people, there was. So we'll add in the word Okay.
A little bit more uppity, presumptuous at times, which kind of led to a little bit of the clicky.
A little bit more uppity, presumptuous.
A little bit more uppity, presumptuous at times, which kind of led to a little bit of the clicky.
Which kind of led to.
A little bit more uppity, presumptuous at times, which kind of led to a little bit of the clicky.
Yeah, okay, so that's what she said. Cool.
It was a charter public school.
It was a charter public school, that's right.
Hopefully it's not coming in here. Hopefully it's not coming in here. Hopefully it's not coming in here.
This is so quiet that I'm actually just going to delete it. And then.
Focused on particularly football and academic.
And then I'm actually going to move this over a little bit because I think the S on academics is missing.
Focused on particularly football and academics.
Yeah, okay, so I just fixed that. Now here we go. Here.
In terms of demographic, we had almost 50% were Hispanics. In terms of demographic, we had almost 50% were Hispanic.
So I'm just correcting a few errors here. I'm adding in the word
And then most of the rest were white. And then most of
Praat is just being weird. That's just a Praat thing.
And then most of the rest were white.
Most of the rest were white.
And then most of the rest were white.
Okay, cool. So I'm adding in these filler words.
I know.
Yeah, so here she's actually saying I don't know, but
I know.
It's so reduced that I'm just going to delete it. Okay, cool. So
who did you hang out with growing up?
So I'm going to delete that because that's the interviewer.
Growing up through elementary school, I had one principal best friends and then two kind of secondary.
Here she's saying, and then two kind of secondary. So again, fixing the errors. Oh wait, Praat is being weird.
Going into middle school, my principal best friend,
Principal best friend, okay.
like primary best friend is what I'm trying to say. She decided to homeschool.
She decided to homeschool.
She decided to homeschool.
Yeah, so there's actually only one word, school there, homeschool.
She decided to homeschool.
She decided to homeschool.
And so I had to kind of try and make my own friends. And from there, 7th, 8th grade into high school, I have two best friends and then another friend who, and so I had to kind of try and make my own friends. And from there, 7th, 8th grade into high school, I have two best friends and then another friend who,
Cool.
past 2 or 3 years, I've kind of started to get to know more and become best friends with.
Great. Cool. So
Where did you grow up?
yeah, so we're gonna delete that again. Cool. Yeah, so this is great. So just in terms of seeing how this works, you we'll head back over to our video. So here's what we're doing. We're separating the speech of the interviewer and the interviewee. You saw us doing that. We're gonna move the boundaries to leave the interviewer as chunks of untranscribed silence. You saw how it was literally moving the boundaries so that we were making sure that when the interviewer talks, it's not intermixed with the interviewee. Then there's a few different other things we're doing. We didn't see all of them here in this demo, but we're gonna make sure to spell out numerals as words. So for example, 1000, if BedWord gives us, 1000, we're going to replace that with the orthographic version 1000 as here. Also acronyms. So because these are interviews of college students, they're often talking about acronyms of clubs they're in or whatever. Or for example, LGBTQ, right? So the acronym LGBTQ, I would spell out orthographically as LGBTQ, just so that it recognizes all of these as actual vowels. Then also, as I showed you, we are adding in filler words like and we are also fixing transcription errors. So all of this actually does take quite a bit of time and effort. It takes a lot less effort than it used to take back in the day when we had to literally type every word by hand, but it still does take some time and attention. And it takes, for example, to do a 30-minute interview, it would take at least, I would say, 45 minutes to an hour to do this correctly. So I just kind of want to encourage the people on my research team that when we're doing a sort of big data project, the analysis is only as good as the data, right? So we want to make sure that the data that we're feeding into our project is good data. And the way to get good data is to actually make sure you listen to the entire interview and do all of this very carefully instead of just leaving it the way it is, the way it came out of BedWord. So we definitely don't want to have garbage in, garbage out. We want to have high quality data in, high quality results out. So just kind of encouraging the students in my research team, please don't create garbage transcriptions, even though BedWord makes it easy to do so. You could basically just kind of, trick yourself into thinking that you're transcribing the interview when you're really just leaving it the way it was from BedWord. That's not what you should be doing here. Here you should really be going through carefully, checking everything, fixing everything carefully. So let's head back over to the interview and just do a few more examples. And then at the end of this video, we're going to conclude by just saving and storing this. If you're on my research team, you want to make sure to save the TextGrid and store it in our password protected box site. That's where you're going to store it, but you do want to keep the TextGrid in case you ever want to use it again. You don't ever want to lose it. You also want to keep it because then if you ever want to go back and see what the interviewee had to say qualitatively, you can just open up the TextGrid and read it as like a text file. And I'll show you how to do that too at the end. Great. So here, let's keep just demonstrating how to do this.
So I was born in Washington State for the first 5 years, but then I moved down to Georgia.
That looks good.
In the Calhoun area, which is about an hour north on 75.
So actually, conveniently, it already has spelled out 75 in words, so we don't need to change that.
Yeah, growing up in that school system for the past 13 years. Yeah, growing up in that school.
Sorry, Praat is just being weird.
Yeah, growing up in that school system for the past 13 years.
Yeah, so that looks right. Okay, so then...
Tell me about your parents and your siblings. Like, what do they do?
Okay, so then we're going to delete this. Right, so...
Okay, my brother is still in high school.
Okay, I'm going to add in the word right. So we'll just keep going like that, and we'll transcribe the entire interview. Great. So I'm actually, imagine that we transcribed the whole interview. You want to get to the end, but I'm just going to close this right now. And I'm just going to also quickly show you what the text grid looks like. So I'm going to open up the text grid also just in a text editor to show you what it looks like. You can open it in Praat or you can open it just as a text file. And so I'll show you what that looks like. So I don't know if I can zoom in, but so here, this is a text grid. A text grid is basically a text file, but it has timestamps that correspond to the times in the wave file. And then that's why they can interact with each other. So here we see what we transcribed. Here we see she's saying 3495, that's her number. Then she's saying I'm a freshman and I'm a mechanical engineer, right? So we see all of this stuff in here. This is the text grid. So this is exactly what we just saw. It's just a different way of opening it. Great, so that's that. Then here we are at the end of the video. We have our text grid. We're gonna go through and carefully edit the whole thing, but I'm not gonna show you all of that on this video. Then at the end, you're gonna save and store this, label it correctly, upload it to wherever you're supposed to upload it. For my team, again, that's our password protected box site. And that's the end of the video. And then in the third video, I'll show you what you do with this human corrected gold text grid once you've gone through and created it by hand after, post editing, hand correcting the computer generated version. Great, so thank you. See you in the next video.